Hello, I am Cece Rivera, and today I'm going to focus on love from within, loving oneself, finding that unconditional happiness from within, the pursuit of happiness. We all seek the pursuit of happiness from within. The real issue comes across when we actually learn that we seek external love from outside of ourselves. And in turn, this is a big issue because from the beginning of time as children, we are conditioned and dependent on love from external forces. And this becomes a problem later on in life when we realize that happiness is not external, that it is actually an internal process, and that the world around us actually just provides a nurturing source. So, in other words, we seek fulfillment outside of ourselves, but the truth of the matter is that we need to find internal happiness, and that also materialistic items do not produce the love from within, that we actually have to turn within and recognize that the creative love resides inside of ourselves, and that achieving that inner peace and that inner tranquility is attained through the process of loving ourselves within and fulfilling that love that we need and desire from within our inner selves. So successfully loving ourselves is actually satisfied when we learn to condition ourselves with our inner happiness. And that inner happiness comes when we recognize that true love really resides in ourselves, and that we are pure energy, and that satisfaction can only be developed through the learning of our own self-image and accepting that self-image of our inner selves. And when we continue to look for external satisfaction, we develop anxieties and resentments, and we become dependent on other people and the possessions that we have in our lives that create a temporary fix of happiness. But the truth of the matter is that we actually need to turn within to actually learn that love and control is not an outside source, that it is within ourselves. And with time, we come to learn that unfortunate things take place sometimes. For example, we turn to addictions, we turn to material things, we turn to relationships that are unhealthy. And that the real purpose of life is to learn about oneself and actually aid in others healing themselves as well. So the source of happiness really comes from within. And once we have that source, we then can turn our relationships into greater expressions of life and actually deliver happiness to others, because we have found that consciousness within ourselves, and therefore having a dualistic experience. And that is what helps us find happiness inside. And then we don't rely on other people and possessions. We find the abundance of consciousness within ourselves. And this actually attracts the right people in our lives. And ideally, this abundance communicates to others what we need and desire from ourselves and what we can actually deliver to others. When we learn to accept ourselves and our experiences, we get an inner strength that comes from within and beyond. And this happiness is created from inside, and then we can actually release it externally to others and achieve a great happiness from within. And that is what is actual happiness, that comes from a source of inner being. So the truth of the inner being is directed in a productive manner. Otherwise, we misdirect our true identities because we're constantly looking for a source that doesn't exist anywhere else. It is an invention that is created out of humanistic experience because we are human. But the fact is that we are actually energy source, and the relationships that we seek are merely an expression of self-expression. And when we find that truth in ourselves, we are then liberated and find the experience of relationships to actually enhance our inner being, whether they are good or bad, or happy or sad, indifferent or an expressive aspect of ourselves. That is when we realize that the relationship merely enhances our inner being and we achieve happiness. Until we learn to reach within, then we do not know what happiness is. Happiness is not something external. It is internal. Therefore, we can only reach that expression once we realize that the inner strength of our own beliefs is the actual relationship with ourselves. That love that we so desire in ourselves. And that is what love and happiness is. And that is when we then realize what true love actually is. Love and healing.